What's up, poker players? Hope you guys are out there check raising some fish and cashing in on the tables. Solid session yesterday, low volume, started to concentrate on more around 12 tables, maybe a couple more, maybe a couple less towards the end of the night, but not the usual volume we're looking at. We only got 4,400 hands in a little bit over 7 hours, but very, very solid. I don't think we made any big mistakes. Our biggest win was 135, biggest loss was only 59, and we ran negative variance, so we should have even won more, but I'm not complaining about $415. I will take that any day of the week. Let's take a look at the hands. First hand we're looking at is pocket deuces from the hijack seat. We are sitting at a 50 NL table, currently 7-handed. We get a limp to our right from a fishy player, recreational, only 13 hands on this player. And we just make a call here, pre-flop, playing this one in position. And that is the perfect flop. Flopping a boat, checks all the way around. I put in a small bet here, trying to build a pot so that we can get our chips in throughout this hand. And we get a call from the fishy player to our right. The turn is the 6 of hearts. There's now 452 in the pot. Our opponent checks back. I bet half pot, and we get check raised. We know this fishy player probably has a 9, but we want this player to stick around, so I just make a call here, planning to get the rest in on the river. I don't think he's going to be folding a 9 at any point, so let's make it look like we're chasing something, or our hand is not that strong, and our opponent jams all in on the river. If this player had an ace-9, which is very possible, we just let him get there, but he would have been calling anyway, and it would have been the same result. So let's make a call here. We're up against queen 9, and we take down that pot of $103. Here's a hand at the 200 NL. We have pocket queens on the button. We get an open raise from under the gun +1. Playing 7-handed again. We put in a 3-bet of $24 4x on the button. We get a call from under the gun +1, and we get a call from the player to our right, who is very short stacked. There's 75 now on the pot. Flop is 2-tone, 9 high, 2 hearts out there. Pretty draw heavy board. Our short stacker to our right goes all in. I make a small raise here, and we get a call from under the gun +1. There's now 150-130 in the pot, and a jack of diamonds comes on the turn. Under the gun +1 checks, and we also check. Under the gun +1 checks the king river, and we also check back just to get the showdown with our showdown value hand. We lost some value with the king on the river. It improved a lot of hands. Some of the hands with flush draws that have kings in them that improved, which is exactly what on the gun +1 had, and he takes down the pot of $150. We bet the turn. He definitely calls, hits the river. I think a turn bet wasn't a bad play though. I thought there was a possibility this player could be slow playing a flopped set or a flush draw. A flop set would have bet the turn or river though. He did have the flush draw, but he wound up hitting running cards to make 2 pair, beating our queens. Not much you can do about that one. I think we got out of it pretty cheap though. Just a little unlucky. Still at the 200 NL, we now have ace king in small blind. We get an open raise from under the gun. The hijack seat calls, the cutoff calls. I 3-bet to $26, a little bit larger than 5x with the 3 players who are already in the hand. Under the gun makes a call, and the cutoff player also calls. Flop is queen high, 2-tone, 2 spades. We have a backdoor spade draw, we have a backdoor straight draw, and we have 2 overcards. And there's $85 in the pot. Big pot building. The flop checks all the way around, and the turn is the jack of diamonds. Since nobody showed any interest on the flop, I'm going to go ahead and try to pick this pot up, and we have some strong draws here that we could hit on the river, possibly giving us the nuts and possibly putting us in an opportunity to get our entire stack in on the river with the nuts. So I bet $34. Not that big of a bet, but I think we can get rid of a lot of the smaller pairs that were sticking around to fold in this spot. Both players do fold, and we pick up this pot with nothing but an ace high and a strong draw against 2 very solid regular players. Now we have pocket kings at the 200 NL. Under the gun +2. Folds to us, we open raise to 3x, and the big blind makes a call. Flop is king high rainbow. We flop top set, Our opponent donk bets for $4 into us. That's about a third of the pot. I just make a call here. You can argue for raising in this spot. I thought about it, but did not. 5 of clubs on the turn. Our opponent once again donk bets, and this time I do raise, and our opponent does make a call. The 9 on the river helps a few hands that could be out there. Any hands with a 10 now makes a straight, and our opponent leads out for 25 bucks. They've let it out every street. I don't think anything but a 10 leads out in this spot unless they are trying to put in some kind of blocker bet, but this player is a recreational player and probably doesn't have that type of play within their game. So I think this is probably a value bet, but I'm getting a great price on it, so I'm going to make the call here and see that he did in fact river a straight. We were in a great spot right there, but it just did not run out our way. Not much you can do about it. Now we have ace queen in the hijack seat at the 200 NL. Open raise to 3x, we get called by a regular to our left in the cutoff. Flop is ace high, two-tone, 2 clubs. We flop top 2 pair. Just gonna check back with the ace high flop, let this player continuation bet, and we just make a call. The 8 of diamonds doesn't help out too many hands. We check back again. This time our opponent puts in a pretty sizable bet. Again, I just call. You can argue for raising this spot. I think maybe a raise actually would have been a better play, but just a call does conceal the value of our hand against a regular player who will probably make a fold here if we do raise, if this player does have some kind of drawing hand or just an ace in this spot. And now the 8 of clubs comes on the turn, making a flush, making 2 pair for any ace out there. I lead out for half pot. I think I should have put in a bigger bet here on the river. I think we get value from all the ace hands out there that are going to be playing aces and 8s with the queen kicker, which we of course beat with aces and queens. If this player was on the flush draw, they now got there, and we are going to most likely get raised, and we can fold to a check raise. If this player had something like a set of 4s, we will also get check raised and could easily make a fold here. But I think we could have made it a little bit bigger to squeeze out some more value in this spot. Our opponent does make the call, and we win that pot of almost 150 bucks with top 2. Now we have pocket queens on the button at the 200 NL table. We get an open raise from the cutoff, and we put in a 3-bet of a little bit larger than 3x, and our opponent in the cutoff calls. Flop is 5 high, 2-tone, 2 diamonds, all low cards. Pretty good spot for our hand. We are most likely going to get calls from most of the aces in this player's range, so we can be betting pretty strong here for value throughout this hand. I bet 20 on the flop, our opponent calls. The turn is the jack of hearts, cutoff checks. We put in a bet of $40 this time. Our opponent calls. There's now 157 in the pot. We have 155 left in our stack. The 10 didn't make too many hands. If this player was playing something like pocket 10s or pocket jacks, they got there on the turn or river. None of the ace hands got there except for something like ace jack or ace 10, which got some value. And I probably could have bet here on the river, but it is a large pot and we have showdown value. We could have some betting value. I thought about trying to squeeze out some thin value here on the river, but decided to just check back in this spot. Could have been a mistake, but we do win the pot of 154 bucks. Not going to complain about that. What do you guys think about this hand? Do you think I should have put in a small value bet on the river, or a large value bet for that matter on the river, since this opponent has called every street? If they did have something like ace jack in their hand, we most likely would have gotten a call and gotten value from hands like that. Let me know in the comments section. Now we're looking at ace king offsuit, under the gun +2. Open raise to 3x. We get 3-bet by the small blind, and I put in a 4-bet here to $48, and the small blind calls. Flop is jack high, monotone, all clubs. We have the king of clubs in our hands, which gives us a club flush draw, the second nuts, as well as 2 overcards. Small blind checks, and we just check. We hit our flush on the turn. Our opponent checks. Again, we just check. I'm going to give our opponent an opportunity to put in a river bluff here. We have shown no interest at all in this hand post flop. Our opponent checks back on the river though. This time I'm going to be betting for value. I think we can get calls from a ton of hands. He might not put us on a flush because we have checked at every point through this hand. If we did have a strong flush draw on the flop, we probably probably would have bet that. If we hit it on the turn, we might have bet there as well. And this looks like we might just be trying to pick up this pot. And our opponent does make a call. We are not sure exactly what he had, but we win this pot of almost 200 bucks with the king high flush. I think we might have missed out on some value through this hand as well. But once again, I'm not going to complain about a $200 pot. Now we have pocket jacks on the button at the 200 NL table. Open raise to 3x. Big blind calls. Flop is 9 high rainbow. Big blind checks back. We bet to $8, and the big blind check raises a min raise, and I just make a call here for the extra $8. This is a recreational player, don't have a ton of hands, pretty fishy numbers so far. Leads out for 21-38 on the turn. I just make a call here, and we wind up rivering our straight, and our opponent leads out for 2/3 pot, actually more than 2/3 pot, and I am hoping that they have a 6 in their hand and we can get value by raising here. So I put in a min raise. That's going to be hard to get rid of no matter what they have in their hand unless it was a complete bluff. They do fold, and we win a pot of 215 bucks. We might have rivered that one. We will never know though. Last hand we're looking at is pocket aces at the 200 NL table. We get an open raise from under the gun to 4x. We get a 3-bet from the cutoff, and we get a 4-bet to $46. I elect just to call in this spot, conceal the value of our hand. I think there's a good chance we could get a jam from one of these two players. Under the gun just calls as well, as so does the cutoff. This is crazy. 4 calls of a 4-bet. Flop is 10 high, monotone. We have less than the pot already in our stack. Completely pot committed. We're going to be calling here to any bet pretty much. So let's try to get value from hands that would be calling in this spot. A lot of the pairs that are over the board are most likely going to call. A lot of the strong flush draws are most likely also going to call. So let's try to get the value from those big pairs and not let a flush draw that is less than premium get there for cheap. Let's just put it all in right now. If you have something like ace queen with the queen of clubs, this is going to be very pricey for you to get in. King queen, queen of clubs, king of clubs. It's going to be a tough call to chase that flush, and everyone actually winds up folding. That was a very, very interesting hand. I don't know what people were 3-betting and 4-betting and calling 4-bets with in this spot, and then folding on a flop. It was a huge pot. Pretty much everyone was pot committed in this spot. What do you guys think about this one? I thought this is a crazy interesting hand. I think we might have added, almost $100 in value by just calling, but we might also have lost some value by not raising when this player might have called any 5-bet jam. I thought we were going to be able to get more value by playing this post flop, but we didn't, and we take down this pot of 181 bucks, picking up 67.5 big blinds, ending our session for the evening up 415 bucks. Head down to the video description for links to America's Card Room, where I do all of my poker playing. It is an amazing site. Lots of great action from what you can see on this video. Use promo code DKPoker to receive a $1,000 cash deposit bonus as well as 50 tournament bucks. Hit that subscribe button if you guys have not done that yet. Keep up with the daily content. See how the 100K challenge is going. We are starting to get in some crazy games, big pots, big old swings, all from a starting bankroll of 50 bucks, and a lot of time on the tables to move up through the stakes. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Look forward to those comments in the comments section. Current bankroll is at $4,500, $12.18. I will be back with a new video very soon, but until then, I'll see you guys out on the virtual felt.